Friday. Happy spring. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kara Kumari. I'm Assistant Commissioner for Communications and External Affairs. And welcome to this quarter of office hours. Really briefly, one of the things we wanted to do when we had our internal communications survey, thank you everyone who filled that out. People said a lot. I miss office hours. And so we're trying to get into a regular cadence of doing employee office hours again to make sure that you can hear directly from us. Right now, we are thinking that we're going to go with quarterly office hours. So we will do another one sometime in the summer and then in the fall and then again in the winter. So looking forward to making this a more regular thing, just like it was back in the COVID period of time. And we got tons of questions, so many so that we're not going to be able to answer every single one, and then a lot of variations of the same question. I'll get to all of that soon. First, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Turner to say a few words. Commissioner.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks, Kara. Good morning, everybody. As Kara said, we did get a lot. I think this was by far the most questions we've ever been asked for office hours, probably closing in on close to 30 questions, if not more. So we're going to try to honor everybody's time and get to as many questions as we can that were not duplicates. But this was important, as Kara alluded to. Feedback that we received was the value of office hours. So we certainly want to make sure that we continue to honor the theme of office hours and the employees that were asking for that. We want to do that. So not a lot for me to add to that, Kara. I know we've got a ton of questions. So if you guys do have follow-ups, Kara and her team are going to be monitoring the chat messages. So I know there might be some questions that come up or some comments that are going to be shared in chat. We'll make sure we try to catch those too. But that being said, I'll kick it back to Kara and we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner. And as he mentioned, a lot of them are going to be questions where we had multiple versions of a similar theme. Like, for instance, we got 25,000 AWS questions. So, and they were everything from summer AWS to can we have AWS because of gas prices to what is my specific area going to do for AWS. So I'm just going to turn it over to Commissioner to talk a little bit about AWS in general. And then I'll monitor the chat if there are any follow-up questions to that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Kara. So AWS, as Kara alluded to, was the most popular question that we received, specifically around summer AWS. The answer is yes. We're going to be working on summer AWS again, probably starting May 15th through around August 15th, somewhere around there. That's been a big hit. I know a lot of folks, value the engagement that they can have with their families and some of the challenges that they have. I will say that one of the challenges that we're running into is we need to make sure that we do maintain the integrity of AWS. Bruce Wilson will probably be following up with that. I think one of the things that we've run into is as we're bringing on new people and folks kind of forget about what AWS really is and the intention behind it. There is coursework and required courses that you take online through Edison. Make sure that we understand what AWS is and sometimes what it isn't. We try to provide as much flexibility as we can. The challenge we run into is we're accountable to DOHR on how we implement AWS and what that looks like and any audits that might happen. So we want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of AWS. But the answer is we will be doing summer AWS. I think most people remember, if you don't, we'll share it. A lot of the flexibility that we give is also geared towards the supervisors. One of the things that I get a lot from folks in conversation is my supervisor said, that's something that central office is making us do or did not let us do or something like that. We're trying to empower your supervisors to make decisions that are best fitted and appropriate to meet the business needs. I will be honest, there are some times that you're going to have to come in and that AWS, your supervisor, does reserve the right to pull back on AWS. Your boss reserves the right to pull back from AWS, and central office reserves the right to be able to do that. So it is a privilege to have it. We want to make sure that we're maximizing it, but there's responsibilities that come with AWS. And so we're going to continue to share that, make sure that everybody is maximizing AWS where appropriate, but also understanding it's very dependent on the business needs of your segment and business segment inside DDA. So we want to continue to promote it. We want it to continue to be part of our culture, but we have to make sure that we stay inside alignment of what AWS is intended to do and not what it's supposed to be. And some of those things include, and there are things that have been sent to us that we have to be careful about. Folks keeping children at home and using that as a babysitting service as opposed to something else, and they're distracted, and things are happening. They're taking meetings while they're at the store. All these different things that have been shared with us, we have to be cognizant of, because those are things that can be audited and things that are reported. So all I'm asking you is continue to utilize AWS where appropriate, but do it the right way and make sure that the integrity is honored for the department too.
Bruce Wilson, any follow-ups on that?
Add a few. If you're a supervisor, a new supervisor, one of the things that you'll have to do is take the AWS supervisor training. If you've got a question on whether you've taken that class or not, you can send an email to the DDA HR inbox and someone can follow up with you on that as well. If you're a new employee, there's AWS courses that you need to take. You can follow up with the DDA HR inbox on that as well. And just to reiterate, now that we're in probably the fourth or fifth evolution of summer AWS, it's important to remember that your supervisor is not held captive to your AWS days. So if there's an in-office meeting that's called on Tuesday and that's a normal work from home day for you, it's up to you to adjust your schedule to meet the business needs that are there. In terms of, taking meetings at Walmart or the grocery store or someplace that is not an approved work site, that can cause some serious and significant challenges. It's important, if you're working from home, that you are working from the approved work site location. I don't want to spend too much detail on getting into the liabilities and risks that are incurred when you don't work from the approved work site location. But if you've got any questions with that, feel free to reach out. But that would be the meat I'd add to the bone there. And I'll give it back to you, Kara.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Appreciate the clarification on AWS. One other thing, somebody did ask, and it might be worth reiterating, talking about how important updating employee information in Edison and that AWS form are annually.
Yeah, I saw that question. The best way I can answer that without understanding what information they're wanting to have updated is that the supervisor is responsible for improving the employee information forms in Edison in terms of redoing your AWS application that's tied to performance evaluation cycle. So that does need to be updated. But if there's specific information that folks have questions about the form, you can drop that question in the DDA HR inbox and someone will follow up with you on that.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Bruce. Okay, going to switch over to another topic we got several questions on, and it is about the change in administration that's coming up. As you all know, Governor Lee is term limited out. We will have a new governor come January. We had several questions. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner. What are we doing to prepare for an administration changeover? What challenges do you anticipate with changeovers, et cetera? I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Turner to talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, thanks, Kara. That's a question that's starting to slowly emerge, not just in our department, but in other departments as well. So I'll try to be as brief as I can, but also informative as much as I can. We actually have a document that's called the COSO. So Kara has been having to spearhead that for us. The 35,000-foot answer is that we prepare documents for the new administration to come in to better understand what each department does, the obligations that the department has, the programs, different things that they need to be aware of, including the leadership and things that would happen in a transition. And so if there are changes, who's technically responsible, who are the leadership folks that can make decisions in the interim, different things like that. So that's an incredibly important document. In fact, Kara just sent ours in last week, I think, or the week before, just to make sure that it's in there, because then whoever wins the election in November, that information is shared with them from Governor Lee's team, so they can prepare for a smooth transition as the new governor's inaugurated in January. And so the things that we can continue to do is do exactly what we've been doing the last 7 years: show up to work every day, try to advocate for Tennesseans and the disability and aging community, make sure that our work is done and done well, and let the results speak for themselves, because we want to hand this off to the next administration as fluid as we can, is in a position of strength, making sure that our department is positioned as well as it can be for the new administration to continue to build on the things that we have done, or they have obviously the ability to do things differently. That's one of the challenges when a new administration comes in, is they're going to have different priorities and different things that they want to focus on. All departments are subject to that. The new governor creates their own agenda, and then the department heads and the commissioners and the department leadership as a whole is responsible for implementing and executing on that agenda. So all we can do is continue to do what we have been doing, and that's work hard and show up every day and make sure that we deliver with results. And then, election day is in 6 months. It'll be here before you know it. But we just need to keep working hard and keep making sure that we're prepared to answer any questions that might be asked of us, both in the current administration and in the new administration that begins to assume some level of leadership in November.
Thanks so much, Commissioner. And COSO stands, just in case you guys are wondering, for continuation of state operations. This is a process that was established when Haslam transitioned to Governor Lee. It worked very well during that transition. So much so that Governor Lee is taking on, it is very, very similar to the last time that it was done, and does provide a lot of good context for any new leadership that is coming in from the governor's staff all the way down. So that's just a little bit of information about what it is. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the next number 3 question that we got many of, and it is around pay for performance and raises in general. We got questions about, are we getting pay for performance raises? What are they going to look like? Will there be a cost of living increase? That is a completely different thing. I'm going to turn it all over to Bruce Wilson, and he's going to discuss that.
Thanks, Kara. So in terms of cost of living raise, the state does not do cost of living raises. We participate in what's called the pay for performance increase for eligible employees, and that'll take effect in September, assuming that there's been legislative approval. And then the next follow-up question would obviously be, are we going to be eligible for pay for performance raises? That depends upon legislative approval, and we have to apply the strictures of the policy. So if you meet the requirements of the policy, then yes, pay for performance will be something that happens, assuming legislative approval. And Jessica Bryant's our HR director. Jessica, if you don't mind, drop that pay for performance policy in the chat. Folks can kind of take a look at that and review it on their own. I do want to make a note. HR is going to be sending out an email in the next couple of weeks surrounding performance deadlines in terms of when supervisors need to have that PE submitted. I want to go ahead and stress that those are going to be hard deadlines, and part of the supervisor's responsibility is to ensure that the performance document is completed on time based upon agency deadlines. So I want to reiterate the importance of doing the PE, meeting with your direct reports, and then having them done based upon the deadline that HR is going to send out. There's one programmatic question that fell within my shop, and that was, is there an effort to gather and publish a comprehensive list of resources that are available within a department? The answer to that question is almost. We're working on a comprehensive resource guide that is in the final stages of review, and we should be publishing that very shortly. I want to thank Jason Ramos, who works as the strategic director in the Office of Organizational Development for me. He's done a yeoman's job on putting that comprehensive document together that's easy to read and manage. So we should have that out within the next few weeks, and we'll be working with IT and different other stakeholders internally to figure out the best way to publish that. So that is coming as well. So those are the updates as it pertains to answers to questions for P4P and the comprehensive list of resources. If I didn't hit anything to your satisfaction, or you've got a follow-up question based on anything I've said, just feel free to drop that in the DDA HR inbox, and someone will follow up with you on that. So Kara, we'll give it back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot. And then just kind of adding a little bit, it's not the same thing, but it is a little bit related to it. We did get a question about the website and contact information that needs to be changed if someone is no longer there, or their contact information or their name is changed because they've gotten married. Please submit that through our web request process on the Team TN site through the ReQueue process. That is that obviously we don't always get when somebody in the regional office changes, we might not be notified of that to notify it on the website. So we do, we do ask that you guys, when you do have some of these things that are on the website, contact information or any information that is no longer updated on a page, let us know, because we can make that change very quickly. We just don't know what we don't know. So just wanted to kind of, since we're talking about contact information and resource guides, felt like a good time to slip that in as well. Okay, so couple of other HR-esque questions that came up. One of them that we want to talk about is we got a question about traveling for state business and whether it's okay to use Airbnb or Vrbo or other rentals rather than a hotel. And that's kind of a little bit nuanced. So I'm going to kick it to Bruce Wilson, but also our new Deputy Commissioner, Daniel Leeson, is on as well, and he might have something to add as well. So Bruce?
Kara, in terms of travel, it's important for everyone to understand that we all have a responsibility to abide by the policies that are in place. And while DDA has not put out a prohibition on staying at an Airbnb, I, as the HR director, highly advise against that if at all possible. The state's only going to reimburse you for certain rates and taxes and all those other things that kind of factor into it. So I would advise against it. There's not a prohibition against it, but every employee who decides to stay at an Airbnb on travel is responsible for ensuring that the costs associated with that trip are going to be covered, and anything that's not covered under the policy, the employee is going to bear the responsibility to cover that cost. So we've had this pop up a few times. Some of the issues we've seen is, my trip got approved, but they ended up not paying for all of it. Physical's not going to approve anything to pay that's outside the scope of the policy. So it's going to be up to the employee to cover that cost. There's really not anything we can do about that. So it comes with an extreme warning, and do so at your own peril to make sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed in terms of being reimbursed for the cost, and to make sure you understand exactly what's going on there. Now, to say that, the supervisor has the right not to approve that as well. Commissioner speak earlier about approving supervisors, empowering supervisors to make decisions. If your supervisor, your division says, hey, we're not going down that route, that's something that they've got the autonomy to make, given where we're at with that situation right now. So that's an HR perspective with that. I don't want to speak out of turn in terms of speaking to the physical component of it, but I'll hand it to Daniel to see if he has anything that he'd like to add to that.
Yeah, Bruce, thank you for that. I think you nailed it on the head. I would strongly recommend that when we do bookings, make sure they're directly with a hotel, because hotels follow those standard reservation and cancellation policies that align with the state's travel reimbursements requirements. When they wrote those reimbursement requirements, they were basing it on those hotels, right? So to Bruce's point, what we see with Airbnb or similar rentals is they may include costs the state frankly won't cover, which results in out-of-pocket expenses, and that's the last thing we want for anybody here. So if you run into a scenario where hotels are just not a viable option, one, you need to coordinate with your supervisor, but equally as important, the DDA fiscal team in advance to talk through that request so you understand the implications at play. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Kara.
Also, and welcome Daniel. This is his first time on office hours with all of us, and we're very, very thrilled to have him on board.
Thank you, Kara. Happy to be here.
Okay. Other question that came up, I think that it's something, and Daniel, this might be in your wheelhouse, but and Commissioner, you might want to talk about it too. A lot of questions about the regional offices. As you all are aware, the West Tennessee regional office is open. It is beautiful. It is absolutely a complete change from the Baker Building when it comes to office space and light and all of those things that make it a great place. Questions about middle MTRO, WTRO, community open houses? Commissioner or Daniel, what are we looking at as far as timing goes on that?
Yeah, we're still on track. Both of those buildings are going to be open before the new governor comes into office later this summer. Middle will be completed, and we'll obviously have a big celebration there. And then the anticipation is later this fall, the East Tennessee building will be open. So we're really excited about that. Had an incredible amount of folks that turned out for the West Tennessee grand opening. We're anticipating the same thing in Middle and in East. Really excited. Hope you guys get a chance to participate and be there, because it was certainly a community-wide event and just a remarkable change from the buildings that we're currently in to the buildings that we will be in. So excited about that. And just a couple more months, we'll be celebrating all the buildings being open before the end of the year.
Just a quick, people keep asking about potential dates for the MTRO and the ETRO open house. Once we know a move-in date, think about 60 days after that. We need the tech home to get time to get all of the tech stood up. Make sure everything in the Innovation Center, there sometimes the buildings are ready, but the shelving might not get there. Those are some of the things we saw at WTRO, where just giving a little time to kind of get the building lived in before we open the doors to the community helps make sure that we've worked out all of the issues before we're telling people to come toward the tech home. So once we know what those move-in dates are and solidified, then we'll start planning out like somewhere around 60 days after that. When we'll be doing some of those community open houses for folks, but we're definitely excited to get those going. So someone asked, and this is kind of about, and this might be just explaining, Daniel, for you guys about mileage and gas prices increasing. They asked if DDA is going to increase the mileage reimbursement. That's not actually something that we do. That's kind of dictated by someone else. Daniel, you want to talk about how that gets looked at?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that mileage reimbursement rates are established at the state level, to your point, Kara, not at the department level. I believe F&A has a hand in that. So as a result, DDA does not independently adjust rates for the department. Any updates would be communicated if statewide policy changes occur, but I'm not aware of any at this point in time, Kara.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. Okay, I think we've answered most of the general kind of HR questions. I don't see any additions in chat, so I think we're going to move into some of the questions that we got about specific programs. One of the first ones was, what are we thinking will happen to the empty ICF homes? Are we hoping to expand the Tennessee Strong homes eventually, or are we thinking of other uses for them? Commissioner or Jordan, not sure whether you want to weigh in on any of that?
Yeah, I can jump in. Yeah, we're 100% looking at ways to utilize those, whether it's program expansion for one or for something else when it comes to respite, whatever that might look like. We absolutely want to continue to figure out ways to use our resources to expand programs that have a desperate need. So I don't know if Jordan wants to add anything specific to that, but the answer is yes, we're absolutely looking at how do we better utilize those resources, specifically the homes, in expanding our services and supports.
Yeah, Kara, the only thing I would add for the group on that is we're doing assessing gap data right now. So, and as our team across the department might assume, we go into those decisions from a database perspective. So assessing those gaps for instance, individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities who require vent care, or assessing at-risk populations of youth who could potentially end up in custodial arrangements without having the opportunity for planned or intermittent respite. So as the department's purview of service has expanded as rapidly as it has, now we're looking at children from birth all the way through our aging community. We have this incredible resource of both trained and competent staff who have been supporting some of the most difficult and highly acute medical diagnosis over decades, and we have these physical plants, these homes that are built to perfectly accommodate portions of the population that might be underserved. And as Commissioner just indicated, our intent is to utilize those properties to continue to serve our constituency broadly into the future. And we've seen some of that already as we've watched the development of Tennessee Strong Family Homes, and as we've so effectively served members of the youth population that otherwise would be supported out of state or sometimes in very restrictive, almost institutional environments. And we'll continue to assess the landscape of our population for the greatest needs and then utilize those homes and the resources we have to try to meet those gaps.
Awesome. Thank you. Commissioner, I want to turn it back over to you because I forgot, and I didn't put it on here, but we did get a couple of questions about the budget and what ended up being in the budget and the impact to the department. Legislature adjourned yesterday, so everything is now kind of in its final form. So would you like to speak to any of that?
Yeah, just really quickly, we did get a little bit that was added from the state legislature towards the end, including senior center grants and a smaller grant related to some caregiving things that that Lauren and the aging side have been working on. So we did get a little bit of money. That's one of the challenges. Just so you know, I think one of the things that was really unique for us. Carol, I'll probably take a little bit more time than you intended, but I want to explain this. One of the unique things for us, we got really fortunate very early on that we were funded at a very high level in the administration. After COVID, state revenues took a significant hit, dropped down to the point where there was almost zero revenue growth. We're still in the process of recovering from a lot of that. And so you're seeing state revenues slowly start to grow. But the spending is not necessarily going to match that, or what the level of funding was from the previous year may not match that. You know, we had a really hard budget year. There's no other way around it. We did not get anything inside the original budget submission from the governor's office. The legislature decided to expand on funding that they gave us last year. There's a chance that changes with the new administration. You never know what that's going to look like. But when changes can happen across the board on a number of levels. We're not sure what that's going to look like in our department. We don't know what the funding priorities are going to be. So, you know, we've had a good run, I think, over the entire tenure of Governor Lee's term that we received almost 550 to 600 million new dollars in program supports, which is a record amount of investment. It just feels like it stings a little bit more because we got a lot of that on the front end and not so much of that on the back end. So we have been invested in, but that doesn't help the families that are brand new and needs that are continuing to emerge. So we're going to continue to propose things that we believe in the budget are appropriate to be funded and need to be funded. And then it's going to be up to the decisions to be made on what should be funded and what our department can do with that. So needs are expanding, growth is happening. The challenge is making sure people understand that funding has to come with that too. So did get a little bit, didn't get everything that we wanted, but we're going to try again. Hopefully, you know, we have to create one of the things that is changing this year. We have to create some proposals for Governor Lee's team that they can share with the new administration. But again, the new administration has the ability to make changes in leadership. They have the ability to make changes in what they think is a priority, and they may or may not take our recommendation. So we're going to continue to submit things and then see what happens with the new administration. Thanks, Kara.
No problem. Okay, another program question that we got was, and this is for the TEIS folks, what are some new TEEDS enhancements on the way? For everyone who's not in TEIS, TEEDS is their management system. So everything goes in TEEDS. So I'll turn it over to Assistant Commissioner Kelly Hyde to explain any new enhancements.
Okay, thanks, Kara. So the most recent TEEDS updates we have had include provider contact information within the IFSP on the plan services page. This enhancement occurred on April 13th of this year and was geared towards improving IFSP teaming efforts, which is a big focus that we have. Currently, we are working on TEEDS changes to improve internal processes related to billing. So all of our TEEDS enhancements that are relevant to service coordinators are announced in our monthly staff update email, which is sent out on the first of every month. And we continue to partner with Brett Wendell and Lauren Lodel to work through our backlog of any potential TEEDS enhancements that were compiled as a result of input from our TEIS staff, department partners, such as our fiscal team and TEIS providers. So we're kind of moving forward with everything that we have and working through our backlog.
Awesome. And then when it comes to other things that people are really interested in, Jordan, when will the updated provider manual be posted? And are you still taking update recommendations?
Yeah, one of the timeless questions, Kara. We're as our group knows, we've been in the process of updating our provider manual for some time, between the complications that arose with program alignment and integration, and then that amendment being pulled, and us having to consider development of a manual that would be 1915C centric. It's been a challenge. The good news is that work, led very competently by Kimberly Black and her team, is nearing finalization. I would anticipate that we'll have a finished provider manual sometime late summer, early fall. We have been working very directly with our provider community, and then also with our program experts within the department. Recommendations for any additions certainly are still being solicited. If you have ideas or comments broadly, get those to Kim. But we are entering a final phase for that now. Certainly we'll communicate as that draft becomes more formal, and then well before official distribution or finalization of that draft, it'll be pushed through the regions and make sure all the program experts have an opportunity to sign off and say, this looks good in my area. So look for that in the next months to come.
Awesome. And then stay there. Because the other question we got was, there's a lot of interest about the innovation centers. When are they going to be available to the community? When will we get more information about them? And something that I think a lot of us are really excited about is this innovation center establishment.
Yeah, certainly much more fun to talk about. I don't think we can have any conversation right now about the innovation centers without first recognizing the efforts of Jay Camperlino and Jeremy Norton-Paul, the innovation team, and certainly also recognizing the incredible S&P staff that have really jumped in full force with this rebranding and reimagining of what those centers can be. As some of you probably know, certainly those of you in West, we were able to do tours of the innovation center and demonstrate a little bit of what the physical space will look like. We anticipate late summer, early fall opening of our first admissions and intakes in the Innovation Center there in West, and then shortly thereafter, obviously with the opening of the campuses in Middle and East, we'll align the opening of the innovation centers. One of the things I just want to express to this group broadly is first a thanks to all of you and to Commissioner Turner for allowing us to think about utilization of that space and think about these innovation centers as really kind of a beacon for what this department has become today. Those innovation centers, as they get up and become operational, will be inclusive of forward-thinking technology advancements, whole person assessments. In short, the centers will become the stopping point for DDA. Anybody can walk in that front door, meet with a qualified expert in multiple disciplines, get a whole person assessment, and whether or not you just need a linkage with social services to find resources in your local community, or you need modification of seating and positioning equipment or wheelchair, between the 3D printing that we're exploring now, between the technological advancements that Jay and Jeremy and that team are bringing into the center, these centers are going to serve our population broadly from birth to the aging community in a way that at least our population here in the state has never been able to experience before. So if you haven't had the opportunity to talk to Jay any of his team about what these centers will offer or what they look like today, I would encourage you to reach out. And then as we begin to formally open those centers, please understand that these are a gathering place for all employed here at DDA, all members of our community, families, people supported, and everyone else. And we would encourage you to utilize that opportunity to come experience what these innovation centers will be as we open, because they represent the work you do.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Jordan. We also got some questions about the Katie Beckett program, whether there are going to be some updates to task reimbursements, and then whether there's a wait list. Jordan, you want to add anything to that?
There is a wait list right now for the Katie Beckett program. No changes are planned at this point. Updates relative to task reimbursement. I do want to take this opportunity to say that sometimes this narrative gets floated and supported by a family member, rightfully, who's upset about reimbursement timelines or upset about consistency and review for a request. Understand that Bo Hickman and his team field every one of those individually, and broadly speaking, the time for reimbursement from the vendor task at this point is below what it was previously with Imperium. And as expected, with the implementation of a new vendor, we are working through individual and idiosyncratic examples of process improvement one by one, and those improvements are taking place on a day-to-day basis. As it pertains to the waiting list, that ultimately will be up to the new administration, the General Assembly, and the commissioner in appropriation request. The department, obviously, as most of you know, supported a request for additional slot availability this year. Unfortunately, that didn't get approved, but we're confident that the Katie Beckett program will continue to meet the needs of the population requiring it going forward. The program's almost 5,000 strong now. Generally, the level of satisfaction reaches well above 90%, and we're thrilled to have the opportunity to even have the conversation about growing that program.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Jordan. Okay, before we wrap this up and I turn it over to Commissioner, I wanted to flip it over to Assistant Commissioner Lauren Legate to discuss something that we've put in DDA Connect, and some other stuff on the aging area, some exciting things and opportunity for some of you all as well.
Thanks, Kara. Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you today. I won't take up too much time, but I just wanted to do a quick reminder for some sessions, lunch and learns that the aging team is hosting next week. It's all around caregivers. So much of what we do professionally is for the caregivers that we support in the disability and the aging space. But we realize that a lot of us, we're caregivers too, whether you go home to a young child or maybe you're helping care for an aging parent. So we really wanted to start at home in supporting our caregivers who are also DDA employees. So next week, April 28th, we'll have a lunch and learn about understanding the role of caregivers. So maybe you're not a caregiver now, but if you're a manager, you're a supervisor that supports people who are caregivers, this will kind of equip you with the best ways to support them, which hopefully something we're all working to do as leadership. And then the next day on the 29th, we'll have a lunch and learn about managing stress and preventing burnout, and just, what it's like not only having a full-time job, but going home to maybe another full-time job as a caregiver to someone you love. So that information was in DDA Connect. We hope you can attend, and a shout out to the folks on my team who have worked really hard to put this together, and that's Amanda Boulware and Shelly Hale. So we hope we see you then. Thanks, Kara.
Okay. All right. So a couple of things. We're at time, so I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Turner, but also this is our first office hours back. A lot of folks said, hey, I really miss it. Wanted to see some different things in office hours, trying to make sure that we're hitting a lot of different topics. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Feel free to contact me, anything that you feel like is missing. Because like I said, We want to make it a conversation. We want to be able to answer questions. We don't want you all to feel like we're just talking at you. So, so just let you know, feedback. Let us know what you think, and I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner.
Yeah, thanks, Kara. I was just going to kind of add some of that. If there were any comments or anything or questions that you had in the chat, please go ahead and add them in there so we can take a look at that. But we've got a lot going on as session is ending. We're going to be traveling some this summer. One of the things too that we've really been leaning into, and Bruce Wilson and I have been talking about this, and so has the executive team. If you're in leadership or in management and there are vacancies and open positions that you have, I would strongly encourage you to really start looking at those and making sure that you can fill them, or at least making an effort to try to get those hired. One of the things that we don't want to do is there's always a potential that because we're at the end of an administration, that we get some sort of guidance or feedback on not filling positions to allow the new governor to come in and make decisions on what they want to do with vacancies or with positions or changes. We really are encouraging you, if you've got open positions, please work to fill those as soon as possible. I can't promise, you know, that we won't be put under some sort of guidance to say, hey, you cannot fill positions that are open after whatever date. There's been no indication that that's happening, but those things have happened before. So I would just encourage you to make sure that you're doing that. The other thing that I was going to add to that is what I said at the beginning. Just keep working hard like you have been doing. Keep putting our best foot forward as we hand this off to a new administration. We want DDA to be in the best position possible to be a good reflection of all the hard work that we've done, and allow them to make decisions on where they want to go as a new administration with our department. Incredibly proud of what we've done over the last 7 years. We've done a lot, and we've done a lot of good things. And so just grateful for the hard work and the sacrifices that you guys have made. Let's keep going. We've got 6 months to finish this, and let's finish strong and make sure that that they understand, you know, the things that we have done and how they have impacted Tennessee or legacy items. And I'm excited about that. So appreciate you guys jumping on today, and thanks for the questions. And we'll wait to see if there's any more in the chat, and I'll kick it back to Kara. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, and if you have any feedback, just email me directly. You know, I don't want to send, you know, one of the things we saw in the surveys is a lot of people don't like random emails. So one of, you know, I just, rather than send out a survey on a survey on a survey on a survey, if you've got feedback, don't be afraid to email me directly and let me know. If you don't, then you know, that's totally fine too. So just let us know what you're thinking, and appreciate it. Any other questions in the chat? This is your last moment. Okay. I will, I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we will talk later. Thank you.